The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council monitoring station. Belter's 6 arms moved quickly across the control panel as the distress signal came through. His blue skin turned pale as he read the message on his screen. The words made his heart beat faster. Help us. The Devourers have come. They are eating our world. Please send help before we all die. Veltar had worked at the station for 20 years. He had never seen a message like this one. The Devourers were stories that parents told children to make them behave. They were not real. At least that is what everyone believed. He pressed the emergency button. Red lights flashed in every room of the station. Other workers rushed to their posts. Commander Zephyrin floated over to Veltar's desk. Her gas-filled body moved like a cloud. "What is the problem?" she asked. Veltar showed her the message. Commander Zephyrin's form shimmered with fear. She had heard the old stories too. Long ago, before the Council brought peace to the galaxy, there were creatures that ate entire planets. They moved from world to world like a disease. "Send this message to all Council members," she said. "We need help." 3 days later, the emergency meeting took place on Luna Station. Representatives from 50 different worlds sat in the Great Hall. Some walked on legs, others floated, and some rolled on wheels. They all looked worried. Jake Morrison stood at the back of the room. He was the only human there. Earth had joined the Galactic Council just 2 years ago. Most of the other species still did not trust humans very much. Jake was tall and strong. His dark hair was cut short in military style. Scars on his hands showed that he had been in many fights. The other aliens stayed away from him. They thought humans were dangerous. Cathara moved toward Jake. She was made of living crystal. Her body caught the light and threw rainbow colors on the walls. She was shaking. "Human Morrison," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "We need to talk." Jake followed her to a quiet corner. Cathara's crystal form was dim with worry. "The message is real," she whispered. "The Devourers have returned. They have already destroyed 12 worlds in the outer systems." Jake felt cold. "How many people lived on those worlds?" "Billions," Cathara said. "They eat everything. Animals, people. They even eat the rocks and metals. When they finish with a world, nothing is left but empty space." "What does the Council want to do?" Jake asked. Cathara's light grew even dimmer. "Our military forces are not ready for this kind of war. We have kept peace for 1,000 years. Our weapons are made to stop riots, not to kill monsters." Jake understood. He had seen the Council's security forces. They carried stun weapons that could knock someone unconscious. Their armor was light and flexible. They were police officers, not soldiers. "The Council wants to send a fleet to fight the Devourers," Cathara continued. "But our ships are not built for real war. Our people do not know how to fight to the death. So why are you talking to me?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Because humans are different," Cathara said. "Your world made you into something we cannot understand. You come from a place that tries to kill you every day. Your people fight wars that last for years. You know how to kill." Jake thought about Earth. Other species called it a death world. The gravity was so strong it would crush most aliens. The air had poison in it that would kill them in minutes. The weather could change from burning hot to freezing cold in one day. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, and floods happened all the time. Most aliens could not understand how anything lived on Earth, but humans had not just lived there. They had learned to thrive there. They had learned to fight everything that tried to kill them. "What exactly are you asking?" Jake said. "The Council wants Earth to send a fleet to help us," Cathara said. "We know humans have warships. We know your people are fighters. Will you help us?" Jake looked around the room, saw dozens of alien species. Some were tall and thin, others were short and round. All of them looked afraid. These were people who had never known real war, had never faced an enemy that wanted to destroy everything they loved. "I will need to talk to my commanders," Jake said, "but I think Earth will help." Cathara's crystal body brightened a little. "Thank you, Human Morrison. You may be our only hope." Jake left the meeting and went to his quarters. He sat at his desk and opened a communication channel. To Earth, the face of Admiral Ben Collins appeared on the screen. Collins was an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes. "Jake," Collins said, "I heard about the emergency meeting. What's the situation?" Jake told him everything. He explained about the Devourers and the destroyed worlds. He told Collins about the Council's request for help. Collins was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. 12 worlds destroyed, he said. "How many more are in danger?" "All of them," Jake said. "If the Devourers are not stopped, they will eat the entire galaxy." "And the Council forces can't handle it?" "No, sir, they don't have the weapons or the training they need us." Collins nodded slowly. "I'll talk to the President and the Joint Chiefs. But I think we both know what the decision will be." "Yes, sir, Jake. If we do this, it changes everything. Up until now, we've been the new kids trying to fit in. If we send our fleet to fight this war, we become something else." Jake understood. Earth would no longer be just another member of the Council. They would be the ones other species called when the monsters came. "How long do we have?" Collins asked. "The Devourers are moving fast. The Council thinks we have maybe 2 weeks before they reach the core systems." "That's not much time to put together a fleet." "Well, sir, but if we're going to do this, we need to move now." Collins looked older than his years. "I'll get back to you in 6 hours with our answer." But Jake, start thinking about what ships and crews will need. We're going to fight monsters. We need to send our best." The screen went dark. Jake sat alone in his quarters thinking about what was coming. He had been in combat before, but never anything like this. This was not a fight between human nations. This was a fight for the survival of every living thing in the galaxy. He thought about the other species in the Council. They were good people who had built a peaceful society. They had art and music and science. They had families and dreams and hopes for the future. The Devourers wanted to destroy all of that. They wanted to eat everything and leave nothing behind. Jake made his decision. Whatever Earth's answer was, he would fight. He would use everything his harsh world had taught him to protect the peaceful worlds of the galaxy. Outside his window, the stars shone in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were coming. But they would find that the galaxy was not as helpless as they thought. They would find that Earth had sent its children to war. Admiral Ben Collins stood on the bridge of the UES Titan as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The massive battlecruiser shook as it entered normal space. Round him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. "Report, Collins," said Lieutenant Lisa Martinez, looked up from her console. Her face was grim. "Sir, we're picking up massive energy readings from the Zentara system. First, there are at least 30 enemy ships attacking the planet." Collins watched the main screen as it showed the battle. The Devourer ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They were as big as cities, with claws that tore chunks out of the planet's surface. Smaller ships swarmed around them like angry wasps. "My God," whispered Captain Steve Johnson, the fighter squadron commander. "They're actually eating the planet." Collins had seen many terrible things in his military career, but this was different. The Devourers were not just attacking the world, they were consuming it piece by piece. Large tubes extended from their ships down to the surface, sucking up everything they touched. "Sir," Martinez said, "I'm getting communication requests from the Council Defense Fleet. Put them through." The screen showed Commander Yethel of the Council forces. The alien looked like a tall bird with blue feathers. His eyes were wide with panic. "Human fleet, thank the stars you are here," Yethel said. "We have been fighting for 6 hours. Our weapons cannot hurt them, they are too strong." Collins could see the Council ships on his tactical display. They were small and fast, but their energy weapons barely scratched the Devourer ships. Several Council vessels were already destroyed. "Commander Yethel, this is Admiral Collins. Your ship's back to a safe distance. We'll take it from here." "But Admiral, there are still civilians on the planet. Millions of them are trapped in the cities. We'll get them out," Collins said. "But first, we need to clear the enemy ships." Collins turned to his weapons officer. "Chief Ray Davis, are our new kinetic weapons ready?" Davis grinned. man with grease stains on his uniform. Yes, sir. The railguns are charged and ready to fire. Human fleet had brought weapons that the peaceful galaxy had not seen in centuries. Instead of energy beams that could be absorbed or deflected, they fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. When these projectiles hit something, they destroyed it through pure kinetic force. All ships, this is Admiral Collins. Begin. Attack Pattern Alpha. Target the largest enemy vessels first. The UES Titan's main guns fired. Metal slugs the size of cars shot through space at a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit the first Devourer ship, the impact was devastating. The alien vessel's biomechanical hull cracked like an eggshell. Direct hit, Martinez reported. Enemy ship is venting atmosphere and debris. The other human ships joined the attack. The U's Valkyrie, an assault carrier, launched its fighters while firing its own weapons. The U's Guardian, the support ship, used its powerful sensors to guide the attacks. Captain Johnson led his fighter squadron into the swarm of smaller explorer ships. The human fighters were built for speed and maneuverability. Their pilots had trained in Earth's crushing gravity and could handle G-forces that would kill most aliens. Fox Squadron, this is Johnson. Stay tight and watch your six. Are fast. The Devourer fighters looked like flying beetles with razor-sharp claws. They moved in perfect formation, but they had never fought opponents like humans before. Johnson rolled his fighter through a series of turns that would have crushed an alien pilot. He locked onto a Devourer ship and fired his missiles. The explosion lit up space as the enemy craft broke apart. Splash 1 bug, Johnson called over the radio. On the surface of Zentara Prime, the real rescue mission was beginning. Colonel Amy Rodriguez stood in the cargo bay of a transport ship as it descended through the planet's atmosphere. Around her, 50 human Marines checked their weapons and armor. Listen up, Rodriguez shouted over the noise of the engines. The bugs have been eating this planet for hours, but there are still civilians alive down there. Our job is to get them out. The Marines wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. Each suit weighed more than most aliens could lift, but the human soldiers moved in them like they weighed nothing. The transport landed in what had been the capital city of Zentara Prime. Now it was a war zone. Buildings were collapsed or half-eaten. The Devourer ground forces moved through the streets like giant ants, consuming everything in their path. Rodriguez. To all units, the colonel said into her radio, move out. Civilians are holed up in the emergency shelters. We need to reach them before the bugs do. Lieutenant Carl Thompson led his squad through the ruined streets. The Devourers had left toxic gas in the air that would kill most species in minutes, but the human soldiers' armor filtered out the poison. Contact front, Thompson called as a group of Devourer soldiers appeared around a corner. The creatures were the size of cars, with multiple legs and snapping jaws. The humans opened fire with weapons that had not been used in galactic warfare for 1,000 years. Chemical explosives propelled metal bullets at supersonic speeds. The primitive weapons tore through the Devourer's natural armor like it was paper. Keep moving, Rodriguez ordered. We don't have time to fight every bug in the city. They reached the first shelter after 20 minutes of fighting. Inside, they found 300 alien civilians huddled in terror. The creatures looked like walking trees with silver bark. They had been without food or water for hours. It's okay, Rodriguez said, using her suit's translator. We're here to help. We're going to get you out of here. The aliens stared at the human soldiers in amazement. They had never seen armor so heavy or weapons so brutal, but the humans moved with confidence and purpose. Dr. Helen Parker was already setting up a medical station in the shelter. She had been working without rest since the fleet arrived. Her supplies were basic, but she had saved dozens of lives already. Colonel Parker said, "Some of these people are in bad shape. The toxic air has poisoned them. I need to get them to the ship's medical bay. How long do you need?" "Give me 10 minutes to stabilize the worst cases." Rodriguez nodded and turned to her radio. "All units, we have civilians ready for evacuation. Prepare for movement to the landing zone." Outside, the battle in space continued. The human fleet was winning, but the cost was high. The Devourer ships fought with desperate fury as they realized they were facing opponents who could actually hurt them. Admiral Martinez reported, "We've destroyed 8 enemy capital ships. The rest are pulling back." Collins watched as the surviving Devourer vessels began to retreat, but he knew this was not the end. It was just the beginning. Sir Davis said, "We're getting reports from other systems. The bugs are attacking 3 more worlds." Collins felt tired. Earth had sent 3 ships to fight an enemy that controlled dozens of worlds. But they had proven something important today. The Devourers could be beaten. "Send a message to Earth Command," Collins said. "Tell them we need more ships. This war is just getting started." On the planet below, Rodriguez's Marines continued their rescue mission. They had saved over 1,000 civilians and were still fighting through the city. The Devourers had left traps in poisoned areas, but the humans pushed forward anyway. Thompson Rodriguez called, "What's your status?" "We've cleared Sector 7, Colonel. Found another shelter with 200 civilians. They're scared but alive. Good work. Continue the sweep." As night fell on Zentara Prime, the human fleet maintained orbit above the planet. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew the real war was just beginning. The galaxy had learned that Earth's children were indeed warriors, forged by a world that tried to kill them every day. The Devourers had learned something too. For the first time in their existence, they had met opponents who fought back with equal savagery. The galaxy was no longer defenseless, but there were still billions of lives at stake. The enemy would not make the same mistakes twice. 3 weeks after the battle at Centaura Prime, word of the human victory had spread across the galaxy.
Ow.
In the great halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of worlds whispered about the Deathworlders who had driven off the Devourers. Jake Morrison sat in a meeting room on Council Station, surrounded by alien delegates. The room was filled with creatures he was still learning to recognize. Some looked like giant insects. Others resembled living plants or clouds of gas. All of them wanted the same thing. Human Commander Morrison said Queen Velasha of the Threnody Hive. She looked like a beautiful butterfly the size of a person, with wings that shimmered in rainbow colors. "My people are in great danger. Pirates attack our trade ships every day. We are a peaceful species. We do not know how to fight." Morrison looked at his notes. The Threnody had been asking for help for 2 months. Her ships carried valuable crystals that grew only on their world. Pirates had learned that the Threnody would surrender rather than fight. "Your Majesty," Morrison said, "Earth can send military advisors to train your security forces, but we need something in return." "Do you require?" Queen asked. "We need mining rights on 3 of your outer worlds. Our fleet requires rare metals for ship construction." The Queen's wings fluttered nervously. "Those worlds are sacred to our ancestors." "Then your ships will continue to be robbed," Morrison said simply. It was harsh, but Morrison had learned that being direct worked better with most alien species. Humans had something the galaxy desperately needed. They had the ability to fight and win wars that gave Earth power it had never possessed before. After the Queen agreed to the deal, Morrison walked to another meeting room. This one held representatives from the Aquatic Confederation. They looked like giant squid with blue skin and intelligent eyes. "Commander Morrison," gurgled Prime Minister Kethel, "our deep cities are under attack. Creatures from the ocean trenches have become aggressive. Our warriors cannot fight at the crushing depths where these monsters live." Morrison studied the reports. The Confederation lived in cities built on the ocean floor of their world. The pressure there was 50 times greater than Earth's surface pressure. Most aliens would be crushed instantly at such depths. But humans had explored Earth's deepest oceans. They had built submarines that could survive incredible pressure. More importantly, human engineers knew how to work in impossible conditions. "We can help," Morrison said, "but we'll need to establish a permanent base on your world. Our people will need time to adapt to your environment. It would send humans to live in our crushing depths," Teal asked in amazement. "Our people have lived in worse places," Morrison replied. It was true. Earth had trained soldiers to fight in every environment imaginable: Arctic cold, desert heat, toxic atmospheres, zero gravity. The galaxy was full of worlds that would kill most species, but humans found ways to survive anywhere. Morrison's next meeting was with Ambassador Yethrin from the Stellar Collective. The ambassador looked like a walking crystal sculpture, similar to Cathara, but much larger. Commander Yethrin said in a voice like breaking glass, "We have analyzed your species' military capabilities. We are concerned about the implications." "What concerns you?" Morrison asked. "Your people possess weapons and tactics that could destroy entire civilizations. You come from a world that created warriors by necessity. What happens when the current crisis is over? What happens when humans no longer need to be heroes?" Morrison had been expecting this conversation. Some council species were beginning to worry about Earth's growing influence. They saw human soldiers winning impossible battles and wondered if humans might someday turn those weapons on their former allies. Ambassador Morrison said, "My people didn't choose to become warriors. Our world made us that way, but we choose how to use what we've learned. We could have conquered half the galaxy by now, if that was our goal. But you haven't," Yethrin observed. "No, we haven't, because conquest isn't victory. Building something better is victory." The meeting ended without resolution, but Morrison knew the conversation would continue. Trust took time to build, especially when that trust involved species that could accidentally wipe out your entire civilization later that day. Morrison visited the Council's military training facility. Major Tony Wilson was running a class for alien security officers. Wilson was a patient man with gray hair and kind eyes, but he had fought in more wars than most humans could imagine. "Today we're going to talk about acceptable losses," Wilson told his class of 20 alien students. "Sometimes completing the mission requires sacrifice." A student raised a tentacle. It was a being that looked like a purple octopus with eyes on stalks. "Major Wilson, my species believes that every life is sacred. We cannot accept the loss of even one soldier." Wilson nodded. "That's noble. What happens when your enemy doesn't share that belief? What happens when they're willing to sacrifice 100 soldiers to kill one of yours?" The class fell silent. These aliens came from worlds where war was theory, not reality. The idea that someone might choose death over surrender was foreign to them. "I'm not saying you should throw away lives," Wilson continued. "I'm saying you need to understand that sometimes good people die so that others can live. Sometimes a small sacrifice prevents a larger tragedy." Another student spoke up. This one looked like a walking tree with silver bark. "But Major, how do you decide who lives and who dies?" "You don't," Wilson said. "Not if you can help it. But you prepare your soldiers for the possibility. You train them to make hard choices. And you make sure they know their sacrifice matters." Dr. Nancy Foster was working in her laboratory when Morrison found her. Foster was a small woman with dark skin and bright eyes. She was one of Earth's leading experts on alien biology. She said without looking up from her microscope, "I've been studying tissue samples from the Devourers. I think I know why they're so aggressive." Morrison looked at the data on her screens. "What did you find?" "They're not just predators, Foster," said their survivors. Their home galaxy was dying. Overpopulation, resource depletion, ecological collapse. They became nomads because they had no choice. "So they're refugees? Refugees with the ability to consume entire worlds?" Foster corrected. "But yes, the point is, they're not evil. They're desperate. Our entire species will die if they don't find new resources." Morrison felt a chill. "How many of them are there?" "Based on the biosignatures I've analyzed, billions, maybe trillions. What we've seen so far is just the advanced scouts." That night, Morrison sat in his quarters, writing his report to Earth. The situation was more complex than anyone had realized. Humanity had become the galaxy's protector, but the threats were multiplying. Pirates attacked peaceful traders. Deep sea monsters threaten underwater cities. Ancient enemies awaken from long slumber. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, a desperate species fought for survival by consuming everything in its path. Earth had sent 3 ships to fight the Devourers, but Morrison was beginning to realize they would need dozens of ships, maybe hundreds. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and peaceful species needed guardians. The question was whether humanity was ready for that responsibility. They had proven they could fight and win battles, but could they protect an entire galaxy without becoming the thing they fought against? Morrison finished his report and sent it to Earth. Then he looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling trade routes and training alien soldiers. Somewhere else, other humans were diving to crushing ocean depths to fight monsters. Humanity had found its purpose in the galaxy. They were the ones who went into danger so others could live in safety. They were the children of a harsh world, using their painful lessons to protect those who had never known such hardship. But Morrison wondered if they could stay heroes forever, or if the galaxy would eventually turn them into something else entirely. 6 months had passed since the first battle at Zentara Prime. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new space station that orbited Earth's moon. Through the window, he could see dozens of ships from different worlds docked. At the station was called Harmony Base. It served as the headquarters for the Deathworlder Corps. Human soldiers trained here alongside alien recruits. Scientists from 100 worlds worked together to develop new technologies. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Morrison, came a familiar voice behind him. He turned to see Cathara approaching. The crystal being's body was brighter than he remembered, glowing with confidence instead of fear. Cathara, Morrison said with a smile. "How are the joint training exercises going?" "Better than we hoped," she replied. "Your Major Wilson has taught our people things we never imagined. Yesterday, a Threnody squadron successfully defended a convoy against pirate attack. They used human tactics." Morrison nodded. The Threnody had been one of their greatest success stories. The butterfly-like aliens had learned to fight with surprising skill once they overcame their fear of violence. "What about the deep-sea operations?" Morrison asked. "Captain Rodriguez reports that the Aquatic Confederation has cleared the monster infestations from their cities. Human-designed pressure suits allowed their warriors to fight at depths that were impossible before." Morrison felt proud of his people, but also worried. Earth now had military bases on 47 different worlds. Human advisors trained alien soldiers across the galaxy. The peaceful council species had become dependent on Earth's protection. "Admiral," Cathara continued, "there is something else. We have received a communication from the Devourers." Morrison's smile faded. "What kind of communication? They want to talk? They're requesting a meeting to discuss peace terms?" Morrison was surprised. The Devourers had been quiet for 3 months. Ever since the human fleet had defeated their main invasion force at the Battle of Sigma Station, intelligence reports suggested they were regrouping, but no one expected them to want peace talks. "Where do they want to meet?" Morrison asked. "Neutral space, beyond the Council territories. They have agreed to bring only 1 ship if we do the same." Morrison thought about Dr. Foster's research. The Devourers were not monsters. They were refugees from a dying galaxy, trying to save their species by any means necessary. Maybe there was a way to end this war without more bloodshed. "I'll take the UES Guardian," Morrison said. "It's not a warship, so it won't seem threatening." "Admiral, are you sure this is wise? The Devourers could be planning a trap." "Maybe, but if there's a chance for peace, we have to try." 2 weeks later, the UES Guardian floated in empty space at the edge of the galaxy. Across from it was a Devourer ship, but this one looked different from the ones they had fought before. It was smaller and sleek, without the biomechanical weapons. That had made the others so terrifying. Morrison sat in the ship's conference room, waiting. Captain Frank Miller was at his side, along with Dr. Foster and a small security team. They had prepared for this meeting for days. No one knew what to expect. The alien that materialized in the room was not what Morrison expected. It looked almost human, with pale skin and dark eyes. But there were differences. Its fingers were too long, and its face had an otherworldly quality that made Morrison uncomfortable. "I am Harold Vexani," the being said in perfect English. "I speak for the Devourer fleet." "Admiral Morrison, Earth Defense Force." "Why did you want this meeting?" Vexani sat down across from Morrison. Because we are dying, Admiral. Not just individual devourers, but our entire species. We have perhaps 50 years before we become extinct. Dr. Foster leaned forward. Your home galaxy is collapsing. Yes. The stars are burning out faster than they should. Worlds are dying. We had to leave or watch our children starve to death. Vexani's voice carried genuine pain. Came to this galaxy because we had no choice. But you've been destroying inhabited worlds, Morrison said. Billions of innocent people have died, I know, Vexani replied. We tried to find empty worlds at first, but there are not enough. Your galaxy is full of life. We had to make terrible choices. Morrison felt a mixture of anger and sympathy. The Devourers had committed terrible crimes, but they were fighting for survival just like any other species. What are you proposing? Morrison asked. A compromise. We will stop attacking inhabited worlds. In return, we ask for permission to settle on worlds that your people consider uninhabitable. Worlds too hot or too cold or too poisonous for your species to use. Dr. Foster exchanged glances with Morrison. There were thousands of such worlds in the galaxy. Planets that were rich in resources but too hostile for most life forms. How do we know you'll keep your word? Morrison asked. Because the alternative is extinction for both our species, Vexani said. If this war continues, we will eventually overwhelm your defenses through sheer numbers. But the cost will be enormous. Trillions will die on both sides. Morrison thought about the human fleets, now patrolling the galaxy. Earth had built hundreds of ships and trained thousands of soldiers, but the Devourers had been holding back their full strength. If they committed everything to the war, even humanity might not be able to stop them. I'll need to discuss this with the Council, Morrison said. Of course, but Admiral, there's something else you should know. We have been monitoring your species' expansion across the galaxy. You are becoming what we once were. What do you mean? Conquerors? You tell yourselves you are protectors, but you are building an empire. How long before the species you protect become your subjects? Morrison felt uncomfortable. The question had been bothering him for months. Earth's influence was growing rapidly. Human technology was reshaping entire civilizations. Human soldiers were becoming the enforcers of galactic law. We're not conquerors, Morrison said. Perhaps not yet, Vexani replied, but power changes people. We know this from experience. The meeting ended with an agreement to reconvene in 1 month. Morrison returned to Harmony Base with much to think about. The Devourer's offer was reasonable, but it would require the Council to trust their former enemies. The real question was whether humanity could trust itself. Earth had become the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had the ability to enforce their will on any species that opposed them. The temptation to use that power would only grow stronger. Morrison called a meeting of his senior staff. Admiral Collins, now serving as head of fleet operations, listened as Morrison explained the Devourer proposal. It could work, Collins said, but we'll need monitoring systems to make sure they keep their word. That's not what worries me, Morrison replied. He told them about Vexani's warning about humanity becoming an empire. Colonel Rodriguez, recently promoted to head of ground forces, shook her head. We're not conquerors, Admiral. We're trying to help, are we? Morrison asked. Or are we creating a galaxy where everyone depends on us, where nothing happens without our permission? Dr. Foster spoke up. Maybe that's not necessarily bad. Someone needs to maintain order. Someone needs to protect the weak from the strong. But who protects everyone from us? Morrison asked. The room fell silent. It was a question none of them wanted to answer. 3 weeks later, the Council voted to accept the Devourer peace proposal. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed that ending the war was worth the risk. Monitoring stations would be established to ensure the Devourers kept their agreement. Morrison stood once again on the observation deck of Harmony Base. The first Devourer colony ship had just arrived at a world in the Outer Rim. It was a planet of molten rock and poisonous gases. It's uninhabitable by Council standards, but perfect for the Devourer's needs. It's done, Cathera said, joining him at the window. The war is over. This war is over, Morrison corrected. But there will be others. There always are. And humanity will be there to fight them. Morrison watched as human and alien crews worked together on the docking platforms below. Soldiers from a dozen worlds trained under human instructors, a scientist, shared knowledge that would benefit everyone. Yes, he said, we'll be there, because someone has to be. If someday humanity becomes the threat, Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then I hope someone else will be strong enough to stop us. It was not a comfortable thought, but it was an honest one. Power corrupted even the best intentions. But until that day came, humanity would stand guard over the galaxy's peace. The Deathworlder Corps had become more than a military force. It was a promise to the weak and a warning to the strong. As long as humans remembered both parts of that responsibility, the galaxy would be a safer place. But Morrison knew that memory was fragile and power was seductive. The real test would come not in war, but in the long years of peace that followed.